G'day guys, welcome to Shenke Garage. So in this episode, finally going to get started into building this tray. Now this tray is probably going to go over a few episodes, so I'll try and make it as in-depth as I can without it being too boring. So this episode's mainly going to be focusing on the main structure and then the tilt mechanism of the tray. So yeah, we'll jump straight into the video and hope you enjoy. Okay, so this episode of the HX1 Tonner Build, going to finally get into this tray. Now, in the last episode, just to recap, had to bend that chassis down. It was kicking up on this rear bar on the right-hand side, so I had to rectify that so I could start building this tray. It was just, sitting up too high, so now it's sitting nice and level. So I got that bar back in, got the chassis straightened, and I was waiting on some bits as well, so I've got some bits turned up from a machinist. So these are the bushes that I've had turned up from the machine shop around the corner. So I just got two of them turned up. So these are going to be used for the tilting mechanism of the tray. So rather than just having like a hole and a bolt that goes through, it's just going to be a lot nicer action with roller bearings. It's just going to tilt a lot smoother. So yeah, they're pretty basic bush. It's just got a little step in there for the bearing to locate onto, and then there's a little groove in there for a circlip to hold the bearing in. And then these are the bearings. So I've got four of them, and the dimensions of them are 32 mil outside diameter, 20 mil inside diameter, which is going to be the size of the pin that goes through there, and then 7 mil thickness. And that's the part number there if anyone is interested in them bearings. I think the first thing I'm going to do is make up the bars that go along the chassis rail here, so I can cut them to length and then cut out a section for these bushes to sit up into, and I can tack them in, get the bar in position, and then I can figure out the tabs or the mounts I'm going to need to be made up to then weld to this rear bar. Now with this rear tilt, I've just made up this cardboard template. I'll just sit this camera down here so you can see. Hopefully I can use two hands here, but righto. So that's basically how it's gonna sit. And this section here, that's the 35 by 35, which is this piece here. And then this section here is the 65 by 35. So that's gonna be the outside frame. And then as you tilt that down, it's gonna hit that light, which I've installed. So I could probably notch out a section maybe like a foot wide, or basically the width of a light, and then that's going to allow me to get a bit more angle. And it's only, because it's on the inside, you're not going to see it anyway. So I think that's what I'll do there. So that's going to allow me to get a bit more angle. So that's roughly sort of the angle, this piece here, that's roughly the angle that it's going to be sitting at when it's fully raised. So I think that's going to be plenty of angle when you come back here. That's gonna be plenty of angle. I don't think it needs to go any more than that. Okay, so I've got them sitting where I want them to, and I've just used a 35 mil spacer underneath just to get it up off the chassis. So it's sitting all nice and square. And with the guards, I've just measured the width of the guards and then halved it, and then measured from this point here to the center of the tire. So then that way I know that when that guard butts up against that, it's going to be dead center in the tire there. And then I've also just kind of marked out where I want this bush to sit. So that'll sit roughly there, and I've just marked that. So I'll just take this off now. I'll cut that out, and then I can tack it in. And then once that's sitting in there, then I can measure out some little tabs to weld in there. I wasn't quite sure how well this was going to work, but I ended up using a hole saw on a pedestal drill, and it's turned out really good actually. So it's a nice snug fit in there. So it's turned out really good. So I'll show you how I've done that on the on this other piece. So I pretty much just used this pedestal drill and I supported it up this end just on a ladder, and I just blocked it up to get it nice and level with the press, and just clamped it down that end, and then just used a couple of clamps on the vise as well just to stop that from moving around. And I just turned the speed down on the drill press as well, so I ran it nice and slow and used plenty of cutting fluid as well. Worked out really well. Okay, so I've got them sections cut to length and sitting in place. Got the bushes in there as well, and that's about as far as it's going to stick out. There's obviously this outside frame that's going to get welded to there as well. So overall it's going to sort of stick out about that far from this rear bar. Moving on to the front of the cab, or behind the cab here, I've got this section here cut to length and sitting in place. So there's going to be about a about 17mm gap in between the cab and the end of the tray here. So I think that should be plenty enough clearance there for when the tray comes up, and also if there's any flex and movement within the cab. And yeah, that's going to get welded to that. It's just sitting up a bit high. I've just got it sitting on that, that straight edge. And overall the width of the tray is going to be 1710. So I've just taken that back a little bit just to allow for the 35mm for the outside frame to sit out sort of about there, and that'll sort of come in line and sort of roughly be about there with the tyre, and then come out sort of, yeah, past this rear bar. Okay, so I've just picked up these brackets from my machine shop guy. So these are just made out of 5mm plate and just made up on the CNC plasma cutter. So I've just got 4 of them made up. That's just how they're going to sit. They're going to get welded to this rear bar. So they're just sort of sitting in place just to show you how they're going to look. But I think that's going to turn out really well. By the time you put this rear bar on, you're not really going to be able to see that. And it is a bit of a juggling act to try and yeah, get it in as far that way so you can see these tail lights, but then also far out enough that you're going to clear the tail lights as well. Now overall, I think that tray is going to sit relatively low. You can see that tyre is going to stick up above the tray there, and then the guards are going to probably be 1 to 2 inches above that as well. So there should be plenty of guards stick up above. Now I was kind of thinking before, if I was to do it again, I'd probably actually just use like a 25 by 50 rectangle hollow section. So this stuff here, that is 25 by 50. That way you could probably drop the top of the tray down another 10mm. So you can't go any lower here because of the chassis there, but you could probably drop this down another 10mm by using 25 by 50. And you'd have to just get another bush made up, or a bit wider bush, to accommodate for the 50mm. So yeah, it's a bit late now, but I think, yeah, you could drop that down a further 10mm by doing that. Okay, so I think before I tack them brackets in onto the chassis, what I'll do is I'll cut this rear bar section out, or the rear frame of the tray. And then what I can do is I can tack all this frame together, get it all nice and square, and then sit it back on, get all this into position, get it all nice and even where I want to sit it, and then I can then tack them brackets in. Okay, so that is roughly where the back of the tray is going to sit, and I think that should be not too bad for clearance for them tail lights. I was a little bit concerned that because of this rectangle section, it's going to sort of sit or come down a little bit lower. I thought it might sort of affect your visibility there of them tail lights, but I think it should be okay. So yeah, back here you can see them, no worries still. If you're in a truck, you can kind of, yeah, still see them. I suppose when you get up kind of close, like here, this is only like a metre away, so you should never be really getting that close to the back of a car anyway. So you're probably going to be sitting, you know, about here. This is probably as close as you're going to sort of get to a car in front of you. So you can still see them pretty well. Now the top ones, they're your parkers, so yeah, they're probably the main ones of concern. Your main important ones is your brake lights and your indicators, so you're going to see them, no worries, but it's just them park lights at the top there. So yeah, I think that should be okay anyway. Okay, so I've just tacked these sections that go along the chassis and then also this rear frame of the tray. And I just used some 3mm packers, so I just made up a heap of these packers just to lift this up here. So this will sit flush with the welding table, and then this is going to sit up 3mm just so that when I put the tray top on, which is going to be 3mm, it's all going to sit flush with the outside of the frame. And then, yeah, I just used a square just to tack in the bush there, so just made sure that all sat nice and square as well, like so, and then tack that in. But yeah, this welding table's worked out really good. It just, you can get, yeah, perfect 90 degrees and then clamp it in place, and yeah, it's working out really good so far. You can also see here, I just cut out this section here just to allow clearance for the tail light, so just to clearance for here. Now I did have a big fail. I originally cut this piece up and cut all this out all along there, and then flipped it around and then re-welded it. Now I had it all clamped on the table, and I thought it was gonna bend a little bit, but I didn't think it was gonna bloody bend that much. Yeah, she's a bit of a banana, that piece. So I tried to straighten it up just by packing up the ends and then using a big clamp and then trying to, yeah, pull it down and straighten it. But yeah, it took quite a fair bit of pressure there. I'm probably gonna need a press to be able to straighten that up. So I just thought I'll just shit can that idea, and I'll just make up a new piece and then just cut out these sections for the tail light. And I'm probably gonna lose a little bit of height of the tray tilting up, just because it's probably gonna hit just here on the back of that bar, but I'm hoping it's not gonna, yeah, hoping I'm not gonna lose too much. I think there should still be plenty of height there for when I tilt it. Okay, that is back on the chassis and all ready to weld these brackets in. So they're in place, ready to go. So I can tack them in, and then I can test this tilt function. So it's all pretty much all nice and square as best as I could get it. Just with the back of the cab, this side is about 20mm. So I decided just to come out a little bit further just to make sure it's not gonna hit the cab. And then the other side's about 16, 17mm, so there's a little bit of difference on one side of the cab, but I just think that might be just how the cab is in position. I did use them holes to line up the cab, but yeah, who knows, the cab might not be square. So it is what it is, you can only look at one side at a time. Okay, I am stoked with how that tray's turned out. There's plenty of height there with that tray. I could probably go up another foot or two. There's a little bit more clearance here, hasn't quite hit the back of the bar. And there's plenty of clearance here for the tail lights, but yeah, there's no real need. That's plenty of angle right there to be able to get in underneath there. So you're gonna have the fuel filler about here. On the drop tank, so I'm gonna have to lift the tray up to fuel it up, so there's plenty of room to be able to get under there anyway. And yeah, it's a nice smooth action as well, so lifting it up and down, it's nice and smooth because of them bearings. I'm not sure whether I'll put gas struts in or not. I'll just see how much weight is going to be in this tray and how hard it is to lift up and down without struts, and I might just put like a rod or something that sort of swings out and then supports it when it's up. I'm not really too sure about that yet. We'll just see how heavy it's going to be. Okay, that's worked out good, that tilt and the frame, so I'm glad to get all that out the way. It was a bit of a jigsaw puzzle to kind of get all that figured out and working, but yeah, it's worked out really good. So I can continue on now by doing the sides of the tray, also get the guards on there, get everything sort of tacked together. And I do have a bit of an idea for the top of the tray. I was gonna, yeah, just put some alloy and then blend it all in nice and flat and then paint it all, but I do have a different idea, and I'll probably mention this in the next episode. So it's a little bit of a different idea. I don't think I've ever really seen anything like it, but I think it's gonna look pretty awesome. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, if you are new to the channel, I highly recommend checking out the playlist for this HX 1 tonner build. So the whole build is on YouTube. Everything I've done to this scene, it's all documented, and there's a playlist. I'll put it up in this corner here, the very first episode all the way to the latest, so have a binge on that. Also, if you like what I do and want to help support the channel, head over to the Shenke Garage merch store. So there's t-shirts, hoodies, mugs, various products on there. I'll put a link in the show notes below. Also, hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. I am coming up to 7,000 subscribers, and the next milestone will be 10,000 subscribers, so it would mean a lot if you could help me out. Hit that subscribe button. But yeah, we'll leave with that, and we'll see you next time on Shenke Garage. Cheers.